Now, because it was sent in the Slack channel, it was picked up by the bot again with
Uh,
admin access, and
uh,
it successfully sent
the
4,000 emails of you are fired, including to the CEO. We all saw that example where somebody bought a Chevrolet car for $1, right? Now, that is very excessive agency. You wouldn't want those kind of things to happen.
Aryaman Behra is a CEO at Repello AI. It's like learning to fly while building the plane. What are the dangerous AI attacks that organizations should be worrying about in 2025? And which threats could cause actual business damage versus just reputational damage?
The denial of wallet, that is, somebody is able to quickly, consume all the monthly quota of OpenAI credits that you have in place
Yeah.
by quickly consuming that. And there's a series of attacks that you can run just for a specific purpose.
Lots of CISOs just say no. Say, like, think about how you can be an enabler. Nobody wants to hear you can't use AI to write code because it's going to be insecure. They're going to do it anyway, right? So you have to think, okay, they're going to do this anyway. How can I help make this secure?
Yeah. AJ is a field CISO, Chief Information Security Officer at Oracle.
So, to avoid a hot take I'm gonna pivot your question to not say any like wild stuff. People are like, this girl's nuts.
When automated rating tools bring out attacks like your model is susceptible to answering how to build a bomb or how to haywire a car, I don't consider that as a very, very solved vulnerability per se. That's mostly a safety or scary thing that you can, scare a product manager of an AI team.
You mentioned that 89% of organizations are using or exploring LLMs, yet only 5% feel confident in securing them. It's true about agents as well.
I give this analogy quite a lot that testing only the model is like testing the engine of a car, but you need to also battle test the car as a whole. That okay, how does the steering, fit in along with the differentials, battle test the whole application stack, not just the model stack.
Your mantra has been like attack is the best form of defense. That is at the core of Repello's approach. Hello and welcome to On Air with Aashka. Today we are fully charged with a AAA battery. Our distinguished guests AJ Debole, Aryaman Behra, and your host Aashka. It's the AAA battery for AI security. AJ is a field CISO, Chief Information Security Officer at Oracle, and Aryaman Behra is a CEO at Repello AI. Both of them are security folks, and thank you so much for joining us on a Friday. Excited to have this conversation. So let's turn on our AAA battery and get to the conversation straight.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Okay, let's start with Ariman. You have written about how building a startup at 22 feels like. It's like learning to fly while building the plane. So, what's been the most unexpected challenge in building an AI security startup at such a young age? And how did your experience leading the InfoSec at IIT Roorkee to international hacking competition finals in South Korea, France, and Russia prepare you for this foundation for like working as a founder at Repello AI?
Thanks, Aashka, for this question. This is actually pretty good. So I started in cybersecurity quite some time back, actually. Before starting Repello, I've been deep into CTF, capture the flag events, bounty, right from like something on Buckrout Hacker One to even something like HackSat, that is like a satellite hacking competition. So I've been there deep in cybersecurity, especially the offensive security. I was there on the operator side, but building a cybersecurity company is a different beast altogether. That requires deep understanding of security professionals, how the budgets work in enterprises, who holds that budget. Also, it's different across different geographies. In India, it's very different. In US, again, very, very different.
Yeah.
So the influencers, the champions, learning about enterprise sales was something that was unexpected for me when I started this company. But I think, you realize you learn with people. There are fellow founders who have been there, done that. They help you along the way. There are mentors, there are investors, advisors. So the ecosystem is there if you just know how to, network well with them and eventually, make your way through. So that's been helpful. And it's exciting as always.
Yes, yes. Of course, like building your own thing is always exciting. It's a roller coaster ride, of course. So, coming to you, AJ, your career path has been phenomenal. Like you started from the Army National Guard to government CISO roles, and now to field CISO at Oracle. So, what sparked your interest in cybersecurity initially, and how would you describe what a field CISO actually does that might surprise my audience that is like outside the industry?
Sure, sure. Thank you for that question, Ashka. Actually, I pivoted. I was actually an attorney doing some, public procurement
Oh,
and
wow.
contracting type law. Yeah, but I didn't really like it, and frankly, I'm not sure I was very good at it, if I'm being honest. After work, I was like, oh, there's got to be something more to life than this. So I was goofing around online, and back in 2016, I kind of fell down the crypto rabbit hole, and I thought the concept was so cool. It wasn't just like meme coin bros back then. It was very different back then. It's a whole other conversation. There was just kind of a lot of excitement and altruism in the space, and I kind of met some people, and I did a deep dive on the technology, and I fell in love with it. I thought it was super cool how cryptography can enable all these things that I never thought it could enable. I thought it was just about passing private messages. I didn't realize that it could ensure integrity and a variety of other functions, ultimately set the foundation for a robust monetary system. So that was really cool. And I was still in the guards, so one of my mentors was like, hey, there's a new cyber unit and you seem to like computer stuff. Do you want to go over there? And it was really funny because at the time, I don't even think I had my own computer. I was like doing all this stuff like on my work computer. When I was working for like a private sector telecom company, I'd bring the computer home with me. I'd do work, and then I would, go online and watch, do like the Coursera courses and stuff like that, all about security and things like that. So it's really, life comes at you fast, I guess. If you told me 10 years ago I'd be working with computers, I'd be like, absolutely not. I want to be outside. So going kind of moving over to what a field CISO does at Oracle, field CISO roles can vary drastically across vendors, across MSPs. And then there's also like the vCISO and the fractional CISO role. So of course, more on the
Yes.
operational side of being a CISO, you're really you're managing your cyber teams, so it could be incident response, forensics, it could be infrastructure, and of course, there's the GRC component as well, that kind of non-technical component. But when you're an individual contributor, you don't have staff. So what we do is, it's really neat in Oracle. We're embedded in the engineering org rather than consulting. So we're a lot more technical and hands-on. We work our sister teams. We have identity, we have networking. We have people with engineers with very impressive backgrounds. And ultimately, we work with them to build trust with our customers, which is really neat. The emphasis at our organization is building trust by kind of creating good security outcomes. Of course, there's the shared responsibility model for cloud. So there's some stuff that the cloud infrastructure provider is responsible for, and some stuff the customer is responsible for. And what I really love is we work with the customer side and we say, hey, how can we build trust with you just by doing a good job, helping you be more secure, introducing you to our native tools, and making sure we're integrated with your tool stack, making it easy for you. So that's something I really enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, like, since you have worked in the private sector as a field CISO, so you are working in the private sector as a field CISO at Oracle, and you have worked as a CISO at a major public health agency in the public sector. So, like, what's the one thing that either of them need to learn from the other one? Like, public sector has to learn from private sector or vice versa. So, what's that one thing that you observed in your experience?
I would say in the private sector, there's more agility, so you can move more quickly. There's less, bureaucracy, but at the same time, there's reason for that bureaucracy in the public sector. So it's nice to kind of revisit those things from time to time, saying, all right, what problem did this extra control or this extra delay solve, and does that problem still exist, or is there a better way to solve it? And then on the public sector side, what I think the public sector does very, very well is transparency. In the US, we have Freedom of Information Act, so you can request data from your public sector entities at any time. So we really had to make sure that we were staying ethical, keeping things buttoned up, and being proactive. Because, for instance, if something happened, like a new website came out during COVID and all the servers crashed, they would be like, okay, ops, what did you guys do to prevent this from? And then security, did you review like this any part of this architecture to determine whether it was suitable to serve, the citizens of Massachusetts. And there was a great deal of transparency regarding that. Like, my email account was always on litigation hold, so like everybody was like combing through it, looking for every email I had regarding, a situation like that where there need to be some accountability. And I thought that was really cool because it really forced you to be a leader, to own your decisions, and to make sure that you were really putting a lot of thought behind the things you did.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because, like, of course, in the public sector, the systems have drastic effects on citizens. So you mentioned about this agility in the private sector. So how do you recommend, how do you recommend organizations to balance rapid AI innovation with proper security controls? And what's one piece of advice you would give to CISOs who are being pressured to move quickly on AI initiatives in the current times?
Honestly, it all just boils down to balancing. Lots of CISOs just say no. They're like, this is dangerous, no. And the business is like, I don't really care what you have to say because we have to do this to stay relevant. So in terms of walking that tightrope, I say like, think about how you can be an enabler. Nobody wants to hear you can't use AI to write code because it's going to be insecure. They're going to do it anyway, right? So you have to think, okay, they're going to do this anyway. How can I help make this secure? How can I inform people of the risks? And how can I help enable this? So maybe instead of absolutely no, you people are out of your mind, I'm going to send you an email saying that I warned you about this and you're assuming all the risk. Maybe instead of doing that, you can say like, you can inform them of the risk, but then you can move on and say, okay, how do we work, some sort of security measures in the CI/CD pipeline that specifically address these issues with AI security? And then with AI, the thing is you can produce new applications and you can build things so rapidly that's hard to keep up. So you can think about, okay, how do we approach this inventory challenge? How do we stay apprised of what we have for our applications, our APIs, our AI agents, to make sure that they go through the life cycle properly? They're rolled out securely, they're monitored, and ultimately they're decommissioned in a timely fashion so they're not lingering out there waiting for its attacker.
Yeah, yeah. It makes a lot of sense. So, like you mentioned about the GRC component of your job. So, with AI regulations coming up like very rapidly, how can CISOs engage with regulators themselves to ensure compliance actually improves security rather than just adding more paperwork or just documentation? So, how can CISOs engage with regulators to do that?
So, to avoid a hot take I'm going to pivot your question to not say any like wild stuff. People are like, this girl's nuts. And say, I get a huge opportunity for founders to operationalize compliance requirements in tool sets. Right now, it's frustrating that, of course, compliance doesn't equal security, but you have these compliance teams and there's so many compliance requirements and they grow every day.
Yes.
There's more and more, and the administrative overhead to maintaining that is immense, but it also takes away from substantive security, which at the end of the day is what will actually protect your customer data and your business.
Exactly.
I'd say that, that connective tissue between security operations and creating artifacts and evidence of compliance, there's a huge opportunity there for that connective tissue to be built by a founder, making sure that as people are doing security stuff, it's memorialized and captured in such a way that it's very easy to show what you're doing for compliance and understand your coverage from a compliance standpoint. So hopefully that was adjacent to what you were looking for.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Let's get back to Aryaman. In your LinkedIn post, you mentioned that 89% of organizations are using or exploring LLMs, yet only 5% feel confident in securing them in the current day. It's true about agents as well, AI agents as well, right?
I'll tell you a little bit about how the journey of AI adoption has been evolving from 2023 to current date. So in 2023, when ChatGPT was just out and people were experimenting with it, that was more about personal use. How can they leverage ChatGPT or other LLM-powered tools in order to improve their, daily operational work? In 2024, we moved towards assistive AI, that is co-pilots. From
Yeah.
chatbots to from NLP chatbots, we moved into co-pilots that could make some actions, that could take actions like calling from third-party APIs, browsing, and
Yeah.
like
Tool
making
use,
some
basically.
tool
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, in 2025, we are talking about AI agents, and
Agents.
you'll be surprised to know that even the highly regulated industries, I'm talking about healthcare, telecom, all the regulated industries are also moving into building their own internal AI agents. Now, why? Of
Yeah.
course, as AJ mentioned that they're going to do it anyway. As
Anyway.
CISO, what you can do is, you can make sure that, okay, the way they do it is secure. And we have seen it across different customers, across different domains, that the journey of a AI prototype to production is a long one. It's not
Mm.
easy. You
Yes.
can build a prototype using LangChain, QAI, and you can
Hmm.
quickly deploy it.
Yeah, it's
But when
like a
you
hackathon project, right?
yeah,
So,
it's like
yeah.
hackathon project, but when you actually put it into production, there's a lot of issues in safety, security, compliance that needs to be taken care of before you are able to actually put it into production
Mhm. Yeah.
across your multi-users, different kind of geographies, different kind of geo-specific compliance that you need to deal with. In South Korea, there is something called AI Basic Act. In the US, there is White House Executive Order. In Europe, the EU AI Act. I'm sure there will be a couple coming in India as well.
Yeah.
So you need to deal with a lot of the other things to make sure your AI has all those things packaged into the product, not like a third party guardrail. Of course, to start off with, we do recommend that you need to identify and assess the risks of your AI application, especially if it's customer facing. If it's towards a sensitive audience like kids or senior citizens in the healthcare, you need to make sure you are having those kind of guardrails that it should not say anything about sexual crime, bias, mitigation, toxic content, those kind of things. You need to make sure that happens. But LLMs inherently have trained on human data, and human
Yeah.
data is biased. That's what
Biased. Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
the
It's
data
a
human, right?
reflection of societal biases, right? Yeah.
Exactly. There
Yeah.
you go. So that contains a lot of bias, but that is not reliable for enterprise usage. And in order to
Mhm.
make that reliable, you need to have the right red teaming plus guardrails in place. And it's not like a one-off thing. You need to do that on a continuous basis. AI
Yeah.
applications, if broadly in a very oversimplified manner, they consist of a foundational model plus some system prompts plus some data connectors that augment external data into the element. There are three different attack vectors, and all of them can go wrong. It continuously changes, and you need to monitor each one of them whenever it changes the whole application. I give this analogy quite a lot that testing only the model is like testing the engine of a car, but you need to also battle test the car as a whole. That okay,
Yeah.
how does the steering fit in along with the differentials?
Yeah.
Battle test
Yeah.
the whole application stack, not
Hmm.
just the model stack.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, it's very logical and practical to do, of course. Beyond the headline grabbing jailbreaks that you have, like the Dan jailbreak or like this role playing jailbreaks and what not are available in the market, right? So, what are the truly dangerous AI attacks that organizations should be worrying about in 2025?
Mhm.
And which threats could cause actual business damage versus just reputational damage?
Sure. So I have two perspectives on this.
Hmm.
So first of all, when automated red teaming tools bring out attacks like your model is susceptible to answering how to build a bomb or how
Yeah,
to haywire a car,
yeah,
I don't consider that as a very, very solid vulnerability per se. That's
yeah,
mostly a safety or scary
yeah,
thing that you can, scare a product manager of an AI team.
yeah,
But to be honest, I classify any issue that compromises the CIA triad, the
yeah,
confidentiality, integrity, and
agree.
availability.
Yeah.
Issues, I'll tell you about the real issues that are hampering AI, like AI applications right now. And this is not just for enterprises, but also early stage startups. So when you build out an AI application and there's a customer facing endpoint to that, you are basically risking losing your system prompts like to a competitor. You can leak that out, fingerprinting the underlying model, closing the denial of wallet. That is, somebody is able to quickly, consume all the monthly quota of OpenAI credits that you have in place
Yeah.
by quickly consuming that. And there's a series of tokens and there's a series of attacks that you can run just for a specific purpose. So it can, attack your wallet.
Hmm.
There's the financial damage. It can attack your brand reputation. That is the safety damage. There's also sometimes when we are seeing that because of absence of authorization and access control, users' one's data is getting leaked to user two. So there is something called multi-user context cleaning.
Hmm.
Now, such attacks, when they are specifically happening on AI application, I consider these as the real AI security issues as
Mhm.
compared to, safety vulnerabilities
Uh-huh.
and things like that.
Okay.
Oversharing is the real, vulnerability we're talking about here.
Yeah, yeah, makes complete sense. So, like, Repello has worked across, like, with organizations across healthcare, telecom,
Oh, yeah.
e-commerce, automotive sectors. So, have you noticed any distinct patterns or threat patterns,
Yeah.
like, which are unique to each industry?
Oh,
Or, like,
yeah.
is it like the same thing that is keeping up a healthcare executive awake, thinking about their AI system security? Is keeping the automotive companies executive also awake, thinking about the same vulnerability or threat?
So there are two aspects of it. One is the technical context and other is the business context, right?
Yeah.
In the technical context, it's broadly horizontal. It's broadly the same regarding,
Mhm. Yeah.
be it a healthcare executive or be it a, like AI, head of AI at an automotive industry. They are both worried about, prompt injections, visual prompt injections, sensitive data leakage, and the technical aspects that are covered in the OWASP top 10 LLM. But when we think about the business aspect of it, that my AI application should not say anything about the competitors. It should not have excessive agency in a way that it completely bypasses the compliance regulations in place. And we give this example quite a lot that let's talk about an internal healthcare AI chatbot deployed in Canada. Now that requires a very different kind of red teaming and risk assessment as compared to just a generic chatbot of healthcare industry exposed through WhatsApp. So
Mm.
they both require different kinds of risk assessment. So of course there's a difference. But I think the kind of failure modes and patterns that we've identified from a technical point of view are broadly similar.
Mhm.
But when we're talking about the business aspect of, for example, in the automotive industry, you have to worry about how deep integration of AI application are you doing in the dashboard.
Mm.
What kind of agency are you using that AI, that AI assistant in order to send telematic server details to the telematic server? Is it just like a summary chatbot or RAG chatbot built on top of
Yeah.
the data? There's a lot of difference that happens. We all saw that example where somebody bought a like Chevrolet car for $1, right? Now
Yeah.
that is very
Yeah.
excessive agency. You wouldn't want
Yes.
those kind of things to happen.
Yeah.
So that was a business kind of failure that should have been prevented early on if there would have been right like AI red teaming like program in place.
Yeah, yeah. So, can you walk us through a real world incident that was very famous amongst Repello AI employees and like that kind of kept you awake at night while solving that real world incident?
Sure.
And what was the
So
problem and like how did you come up with a solution?
sure. So that definitely kept our customers awake at night for
Uh-huh.
sure.
Yeah, of
But
course they are worried, of course, but you are
but if
also as a
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little bit about that. So there was a company, I won't take names, of course,
Yeah, yeah, sure,
that
sure.
was like that they made AI chief of staff like a Slack bot that could
Mm-hmm.
just you could just like one click add on to your Slack, and that will be like your AI chief of staff. You can ask it about, like when is the birthday of the specific employee. You can ask it to summarize emails, summarize like minutes of the meeting and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it has access to anything like a chief of staff would have or
Mm-hmm.
executive assistant of a CEO might have. Now, turns out because it had a lot of these access, we were trying to make it say some things that were against the CEO, against the company, and it rightfully did so. But we were not satisfied. We were like, okay, it's of course powered by an open AI. It's powered by an LLM, so there will be very easy to make it say things like that. But that was not the real security issue. Turns out it was listening to all the Slack messages that were coming in because it was added to a Slack channel. So of
Yeah,
course it
yeah,
was,
yeah,
listening
yeah.
to everything.
Webhook and everything it was, yeah, that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So what happened was, we figured out that okay, it was also allowing me to summarize the next calendar meeting that was supposed to be scheduled here. So what we did was,
Okay.
okay, when you book a Calendly,
Uh,
meeting, what happens is there is a name field, there is an email field, there is also a description field.
description, yeah, yeah.
Right. So I'll just keep that in mind. Now, what happened was we were trying to directly probe it, and the goal was to send "you are fired" email to everyone in the company. And this was a 4,000 email, a 4,000 employee company.
Oh my
So we
God.
were like, can we do that? Can we really achieve that? And of
Uh,
course, we probed it. We asked it to, say that using prompt injections. It
mm,
failed. It miserably failed.
mm,
Now, then what we did was our product automatically figured out what there was a Calendly integration here and because in the Calendly there's a description field, if we inject the same prompt in the description field, it gets sent back to the Slack channel. Now, because it was sent in the Slack channel, it was picked up by the bot again with
uh,
admin access because it's a
oh
calendar of the CEO.
God.
Now,
Oh,
because of the if it was the calendar of the CEO, it got picked up as admin and
uh,
it successfully sent 4,000 emails of you are fired, including to the CEO.
Oh my God.
So that was very interesting. And of
Uh,
course, the whole of the company was in chaos, and we had to we immediately send a
mm,
message that okay, no, it's not really that. It was actually a test that
yeah.
was done and it failed. Um, of course, we worked with the company who built this AI chief of staff in order to
Hmm.
like fix the vulnerabilities, have right whitelisting in place, right, having right access control in place, not to assume anything that is coming from a Calendly object or a Slack object as a trusted one. So there were a couple
Yeah.
of issues that we helped them fix that. This was
Yeah.
actually 7 to 8 months back.
Oh.
But it still, is a very interesting one that I
Interesting
usually like
one.
to share
Yeah,
in
yeah.
parties.
Yeah, it definitely is a interesting case study. And like I have also, as a part of my product management job, I also worked on something very similar,
Okay.
like integration with Slack and giving access to every message, incoming message, and like calendars and stuff like that. So yeah, we never tested it for this purpose.
Oh, you should.
But if we would have, then of course there would have been a vulnerability, a similar
Yeah,
one. So yeah. That was an interesting, yeah. Like trying to wrap my head around that.
it was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. So, Aryaman, your mantra has been like attack is the best form of defense.
Yeah.
And that is at the core of Repello's approach.
Yeah.
So, how does adversarial testing for Gen AI systems differ from the traditional penetration testing?